fully ready in somewhere in second week of May. So we are pleading on the government to actually hold for now. Let the system be ready and let all the app companies be integrated into the system.
The Ghana Online Drivers Union has welcomed the decision, calling for proper consultation. This afternoon, we have a representative who will be joining us in studio. Also, Roads and Transport Committee of Parliament has been questioning the basis for the rollout when no proposals have come before Parliament. Also this afternoon, more upheavals to hit school feeding program over delayed grants as caterers in Northern region hint of joining the strike by their counterparts in the Ashanti region in the coming days if authorities fail to settle outstanding arrears. We are live in the area, plus get reactions from the school feeding secretariats. And also, Gaffer New Patriotic Party opens nomination for parliamentary primaries ahead of a Komla by-election. We have details of these and more. Stay with us. Thank you for joining us. A little later in the program, we'll be having some reactions to the appointment of Frank Lampard as interim coach of Chelsea Football Club in London. Ghanaian fans have been sharing their displeasure over the latest developments. We'll be getting into all of that. Thank you for joining us. Let's begin, however, from here. The Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority, DVLA, in the last few hours has ordered all digital transport operators, that's Bolt, Uber, Yango, Shaxi and others, to halt their collection of a new digital transport fee. Government, through the DVLA, commenced the implementation of a digital transport fee on all rides as tax on April 4. Customers were to be charged an amount of 1 cedi as a digital transport fee. This latest directive drew angry reaction from drivers and patrons, with some operators already serving notice of increasing their fares. But in the last few hours, the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority, DVLA, has directed the implementation of a digital fee be halted. Grace Hamwajiman, my colleague, is joining me in studio with a lot more detail on this issue as contained in the DVLA statement. Thank you for joining us, Grace. What reasons do the authority give for suspending the rollout?
So, Komla, according to the release, it says it has observed that after it announced the implementation to begin, there's been a lot of reactions and concerns from both drivers and passengers. So they've had to call for a halt until a lot of consultations are done with the drivers and passengers, and then they see whether to bring it back or even hold on for further consultation.
And I know you this morning engaged the services of these ride-hailing apps. Did you see any charge?
No. What I observed was the usual increase when you stay in traffic for a while. So when I was ordering, it was 31. When I got to my destination, I paid 32. I asked the driver whether he knew the DVLA had started something of that sort, and he said, "Oh, madam, but minim jumano." So if I am to go by this driver's knowledge of the implementation of this new policy, then it even means that the DVLA will have to do lots of education for these drivers, because the one I engaged this morning, who sounded quite a bit more literate, didn't even know how this implementation was going to work, how it's been rolled out. So DVLA will have to do some work even in that area.
All right, thank you, Grace. You stay with me a while longer. I am having in studio now Vice President of the Ghana Online Drivers Union, Francis Tenge. No, he is James Gamo. Thank you for joining us. So you have received this particular information from the DVLA calling for the halt in the implementation. That's what you've been calling for, by the way. But beyond the halting of a process, what do you know about this new digital transport fee and the rollout? What do you know?
Thank you very much. My greetings to all listeners. Regarding to this implementation, it was something DVLA, or the government through Ministry of Transport through DVLA, started to introduce since 2019. Yeah, there have been several consultations which engage us. And most of the time, they started with we coming to DVLA, we online drivers coming to DVLA, coming to they call it we coming to confirm our license. Okay. And then car owners coming to rectify their cars to see if everything is registered. And we stood against it because there were charges. The reason being that DVLA was the person that gave us the license. So why should they verify our license at a cost? So we stood against it and it couldn't work. And they went back and brought this one. Actually, we wrote to government to come and regularize the system because this system haven't been in existence for all this while. It was something that is coming to the system. So there's no any law governing our work.
Okay.
So we call on the government to come and regularize it. And these are the steps that the government, through DVLA, is trying to take to regulate the system.
Not to cut you, but in the last few days, before we are learning today that it has been put on hold, were your members aware of this particular policy? Did they understand how it will even work?
No, please. They didn't inform us.
Okay. And your members do not even know how it works?
No.
Okay, so now the DVLA is saying it's put on hold to engage all the parties. When you meet the DVLA, what are some of the concerns you're going to be putting before the DVLA with respect to this?
Okay, so the very first day that they implement this, that was 1st April, we had wanted to issue press release when DVLA engage us. So we sat down, we dialogue it, and we suggest to them that, yes, it's a good thing, but we need to collaborate. So DVLA listened to us, and we asked them to put hold on it until we are done with this discussion, and then we'll come to conclusion on what best is good. Yes, so DVLA listened, and that's how come they put hold on it.
All right, you stay with me. Grace, I'm sure you've been monitoring social media, some of the comments and reactions that have greeted this particular development. What are some of the messages that you've gathered?
This one is from the popular Trotro Diaries page on Facebook, and it's coming from somebody called Anamwa Enchi Governor. He says, small luxury that we are enjoying in these cars too. Government wants to tax a bay. And then this one is from Makwesi Amwa. He says, everything is being charged and taxed in this country. Abba, where else should we go? And then this one is from AC. He says, these drivers are now going to charge us more. Even when they wait for you for a minute, they are already charging you. How much more? DVLA is also adding an extra charge of 1 cedi. Some of them might be taking 5 cedis before you even know.
Wow, and I just got some messages on my timeline. Sam from Dansoman says any form of taxes will be resisted. There's too much hardship in the country. And this is John Graham. He is writing from Agbogba. He says the state is literally taxing any and everything. This is when we will resist. So it would appear many individuals are not excited about this. James, you are still here with us. So going forward, the next steps, what should we be expecting from you as the union?
DVLA assured that they are not going to do this without us. We should forgive them. It's an error. So yes, we admit that, and we are going to collaborate together and make sure we've put system in place to regulate the system and also to provide security for both riders and drivers, as well as fairness in this our industry.
And what steps are you taking to educate your members? Because I know there are many of your members who, as you rightly mentioned, had no clue about this.
Yeah, so it's something that came now and just 2 days ago. So we are working on it, making sure information reach them. And we also use your platform to tell all drivers that they should come down, things will be regulated and their interests will be protected.
Thank you very much. James Gamo is Vice President of the Ghana Online Drivers Union. Also with me in studio was Grace Hamwa Ajima, bringing us a lot more on this particular development. And we have been speaking to the Chairman of the Roads and Transport Committee of Parliament, Kennedy Osenyaku, who is questioning the basis for the rollout when no proposals have come before Parliament. He has described it as an arbitrary charge and asked the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority, DVLA, to bring the proposals before the House for consideration. And so you want to stay with us. We'll be keeping our eyes on this development and update you as and when the details become available. Let's just stay with transport and road-related stories because 2 female senior high school students from Bole have reportedly died as a bus believed to be transporting students from Lesia Tolu SHS to the Upper West region and moving towards Tichiman was involved in an accident this morning. The accident occurred around Gitabo community in the Savannah region. The students died on the spot. The remaining passengers, we are told, have been rushed to the hospital. It is unclear what caused the accident, but residents are attributing it to the bad nature of the Wa Sola Bole highway. We will be getting the latest from our correspondents shortly. Now, the National Council of the New Patriotic Party has approved timelines for holding parliamentary primaries in the Komla constituency in the Shanti region ahead of a by-election there. The Speaker of Parliament, Adom, declared the Komla seat vacant following the death of a sitting MP, Philip Baswa. It is the second time the governing party has lost a sitting MP at Komla under the Fourth Republic. Well, the party says nominations will open on April 11, 2023. We'll get through to Evans Inkum, my colleague, who has been keeping his eyes on the timetable of the NPP in the region. He's been engaging residents and constituents, gauging the mood of the people there following the passing of Philip Baswa. He will join us on the line. We'll engage him on the latest shortly. As and when William Evans Inkum joins us in studio, we will get you those latest details. You're still listening to the Midday News here on 3FM 92.7. Well, this is a subject that has been trending over the last few days. Civil society groups are rallying one another to push for amendment of the constitution to make appointment of persons onto sensitive state agencies and commissions transparent and free of partisanship. It comes on the heels of a call by the Coalition of Election Observers, Kodeo, Star Ghana, and the Civic Forum Initiative for the resignation of two newly sworn-in members of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Apiahene and Salima Ahmed Tijani. Judith Awatritando has been gauging reactions to the call from multiple sources.
The appointment of the three new members of the Electoral Commission did not go without public backlash over claims of they being too politically exposed. The Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, Kodeo, has recently added its voice, saying that nothing stops the newly appointed commissioners from resigning.
We are painfully aware that voluntary and constitutionally grounded revocation of these unfortunate and democratically problematic EC appointments by the President is extremely unlikely. However, nothing stops the affected appointees, namely Dr. Peter Apiahene and Hajia Salima Ahmed Tijani, from voluntarily and honorably resigning from membership of the EC.
Kodeo, along with two other civil society organizations, Star Ghana and Civic Forum Initiative, are of the view that allegations of the political ties of two out of the three appointees, Peter Apiahene and Madam Salima Ahmed Tijani, with the governing New Patriotic Party, would jeopardize the confidence the electorate have in the Electoral Commission. Political science lecturer at the University of Ghana, Professor Ransford Jampo, however, says the calls by the civil society organizations are rather belated.
We know that there's no way the president is going to rescind his decision. And then secondly, you know that the culture of resignation is not ingrained in the psyche of the typical public servant in Ghana. And so even though they have made the calls that these appointees possibly should resign, that recommendation amounts to merely romancing a stone. Nothing is going to happen.
But what provisions are available in the Constitution on these claims of political bias?
The conflict of interest is something which always can be dealt with, whether it is written in black and white or not. It does not necessarily have to be actual. It can be potential.
Former Chief Justice Sophia Kufu further says the mode of appointment into these agencies and commissions could be more open and transparent with little involvement of the President.
There could be another methodology or process or procedure for the appointment. It will be more desirable. Even the appointment of judges. In most countries these days, it is not a direct nomination and appointment at the very top level. It is through an independent commission.
It's only a matter of time for us to know whether these appointees will heed to the call by the CSOs and whether or not the President will rescind his position on their appointment.
Judith Awatritando put that together, and we know in the last few minutes the New Patriotic Party has been responding. Communications Director Richard Ahiangba says calls for resignation of the two members are premature. He says that even though these individuals, according to the party, may not be dyed-in-the-wool members of a party bearing membership cards. They are competent enough to be in the roles they have been appointed to. And so as far as he is concerned, there's no problem at all, and the calls for their resignation are premature. Let's head up to the phone line now and speak to William Evans Inkum in the Ashanti region. He has been monitoring the NPP's timetable with respect to the Kumewu constituency, which lost its member of parliament sometime last month, and the party, that's the NPP, has since confirmed when voting or nominations will open in that part of the country. William Evans Inkum, thank you for joining us. What do we know per the timetable of a party with respect to Kumewu?
All right, so what we know is that opening of nomination will be held on Tuesday, April 11, 2023, this year. That is when nomination will be open for any interested person who wants to lead the New Patriotic Party in the Kumewu constituency after the demise of the Member of Parliament, can pick forms and, of course, also contest for that particular slot. Of course, closing of nomination will be on the Friday, April 14th. So 3 days after the opening of nomination, filled or completed forms have to be handed to the regional, the headquarters of the party, so that vetting can also, continue. Then, of course, we also will be looking at when the election for the prospective parliamentary candidate for the ruling New Patriotic Party will be held, and we are talking about Sunday, April 23rd. That is what the party, or that is the exact day the party has set for election, or what we call internal, primaries for the election of the next PC for Kumewu constituency. So after that, then they will be waiting on the Electoral Commission to also set a date for the by-election. But Komla, on the part of the NDC, they have already elected somebody to contest the Kumewu seat, because that particular person was the only person who filed, and per the guideline, that is 12.5, section 12.5 of the NDC guidelines, he went solo. So here we are talking about Akwesi Amankwa. So whoever is elected as the PC for the NPP, that person will be facing Kwesi Amankwa of the NDC for the Kumewu seat.
Thank you, William Evans Inkum. You stay on the line. We'll be coming back to you on the latest with respect to the school feeding caterers and their strike shortly. But let's get onto the other phone line. Speaks to Christopher Marco, my colleague in the Northern region. He's been monitoring the situation there with respect to an accident which has claimed 2 lives of female senior high school students who were traveling from Bole. Thank you, Christopher, for joining us. What more do we know with respect to the other passengers on this bus?
Yes, so most of the passengers who are in critical condition have been moved to the Wa government hospital, while others have also been moved to the Bole government hospital for treatment.
And I know it's premature, but do we have any indication at all what may have led to this accident?
Yes, so Komla, the Wa Solar Bole Highway is one of the roads that was awarded on contract in 2017 because of the porous nature of the road. It has a lot of deep potholes on the road, and so drivers commuting on that road have to swerve through the road to be able to move from one destination to the other. So residents are saying that the poor nature of the road accounted for the accident.
Rather unfortunate development there. Let's switch subjects now, but still stay with you, Christopher. The school feeding program, we understand, is facing some challenges. The caterers in the Ashanti region have suspended cooking for the pupils in that part of the country. We understand the caterers in the northern part of the country are also threatening to join their colleagues. You've been gauging some of the caterers in the northern region. What have they been telling you?
Yes, so Komla, exactly so, because for them, for the first term and the third term, they have not been paid, and so just as schools have reopened, they are hoping that they will be paid as soon as possible. But by the next 2 weeks, if they are not paid, they will be forced to also join their colleagues in the Ashanti region to suspend cooking until their monies are paid to them.
And William Evans Inkum, we know it's a second day of a sit-down strike, for want of a better expression, of the caterers in the region. Do we know if there's been any updates with respect to how soon the payments will be done for them to return to cook?
Well, there hasn't been any official communication to that effect, and exactly that is what the aggrieved caterers have been looking forward to, but that isn't happening. And the Ashanti region has become an epicenter as far as a nationwide demonstration is concerned. So once they are not hearing anything, it does appear that the same thing is also being, witnessed across the other parts of the country. But here, even mundane of information that they're expecting from the Secretariat, and for that matter, the central government, is yet to drop.
And so, you've been checking some of the schools. Yesterday, when I spoke to you, you mentioned that in excess of 1,000 caterers have been affected by this. Now,
so those are the schools. In excess of over 1,500 schools are on the program. And now that the caterers are not cooking, we are talking about tens of thousands of pupils who will be deprived of food. And especially for those who are coming from not too good in terms of the social strata, coming from a broken home or a poverty-stricken home, that is a difficulty, for them. This morning when I went to the State Experimental School, I could see from the faces of some of these children that, their life, I'm talking about in terms of meal, depended on the school feeding. Now that there's no show, it's really heartbreaking for them.
Thank you, William Evansinku, my colleague there, who has been checking on the situation in the Ashanti region. We're happy to be joined on the phone by Siba Alpha. He is the communications lead at the School Feeding Secretariat. Thank you for joining us, Siba. So what do we know about the moves by your secretariat or government to pay these caterers, so particularly in the Ashanti region, they can get back to work and cook for their children?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. Good afternoon to our listeners. Yes. So, even before I go into that, we have to put the record straight that school feeding program doesn't owe the caterers more than, not only those in Ashanti region, but caterers nationwide more than 3 times. As a matter of fact, only last week we advanced payment to caterers in the 8 regions of the country. Initially, we paid 8 regions. Then the remaining 8 regions were paid last week. That included our Ashanti region. And so as we speak, the whole of second term of 2022 academic year has been cleared by government. So all the 60 regions have their payment for second term arrears. Just perhaps we have some little, or what we can term as isolated cases of payment. Those who have issues with their data, with their e-suite card, with their names. If we have reconciliation problems, we don't pay, so we hold on to investigate further before we advance payment. But largely, the 60 regions have been paid. So the only outstanding, what we call it, term is third term for the same academic year as I mentioned, and then the first term of this current academic year. And so we have done the payment. It's not true that we have not paid them for 3 terms.
So you're telling me this afternoon here on the show that the caterers in the Ashanti region who are up in arms with you and government over non-payment of arrears do not have a case?
No. I wanted to put that into perspective. You see, if we are talking about arrears, it's as if we have not paid at all. So I'm saying that, yes, we do owe for second term, for what you call it, third term of 2022 academic year, as well as first term of this academic year.
So when are they getting their monies? When are they getting their money so they return to cook for the children?
That's what I'm saying. Now we have paid for second term last week. Only last week we have made payment to the caterers.
But they are saying, what about the third term payments? Because they say unless they get the payment of the arrears, they're not returning.
Yes. What I'm saying is that I'm sure we are all saying the same thing, but just maybe I have to do a little clarification. I'm saying that payment has been done for second term, and then the way school feeding program operates, we are always in arrears because it's a pre-financing program. You understand? So the caterers must necessarily pre-finance and do the cooking. Afterwards, school feeding will come and do monitoring and ascertain.
Well, I think it's just the timing and perhaps the reputation of Lampard too. Let me just break it down quite quickly. The timing, because it's been a very difficult period for the club. There was a lot of expectation when Todd Bowley and his associates took charge of the club and promised to pump in a lot of money. Yes, they have pumped in a lot of money, which in effect increased the expectations on the team. But what they've seen on the field has been far from what Chelsea fans envisaged. They do have quality players, but they're not seeing the type of football and success that they do want. And so it's a period where people wanted assurance.
Okay.
Someone to come in and steady the ship and perhaps give them a bit of hope that they can compete in the quarterfinal against Real Madrid. But to go back to a coach that's perhaps had a very torrid end. Yes, he's a legend in the team, but in terms of he had a win rate just about 52%, and in his last season was very catastrophic. For Lampard, what he showed in his 2 years or so at Chelsea is that when he doesn't have resources, when there was a transfer ban, he was able to get a top four. Once he got a transfer window, bought in key players, now the players started to underperform. So what's the assurance that coming into this heavily loaded side of resources, he can be able to take the team to a good level? Where Chelsea want to make a permanent appointment, there would be a lot of demand.